And we begin with the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The tributes came pouring in over the weekend as people reacted to the news that the 87-year-old iconic justice lost her battle with cancer. Memorials have sprung out outside courthouses across the country, also in the Bronx at her childhood home. In Washington, the flag outside the Supreme Court is at half-staff and will remain that way for 30 days. Inside, Justice Ginsburg's seat and the bench in front of her is draped in black, a tradition dating back to 1873. There's also a black drape across the top of the entrance to the court in her honor. On Wednesday and Thursday, the public will have an opportunity to pay their respects to Justice Ginsburg. She will lie in repose at the top of the Supreme Court steps after a private ceremony. On Friday, her body will be moved to the Capitol, where she will lie in state. A private burial is planned for next week at Arlington National Cemetery. In a statement released over the weekend, Justice Clarence Thomas said she was the essence of grace, civility, and dignity. She was a superb judge who gave her best and exacted the best from each of us, whether in agreement or disagreement. Justice Sonia Sotomayor said, "I will miss Ruth greatly. She welcomed me to the court with a warmth I could not have expected, and I came to feel a special kinship with her. She was someone whose wisdom, kindness, and unwavering support I could always rely on. I will forever cherish the moments we shared." And Justice David Souter wrote, "Ruth Ginsburg was one of the members of this court who achieved greatness before she became a great justice. I loved her to pieces." Well, what's next? The president says he has a list of 3 to 4 women that he'll choose from to nominate to fill that open seat. Let's talk about that with Court TV anchor Michael Ayala, Court TV anchor Julie Grant, and special contributor Ashley Banfield. Michael, I want to start with you. You've been poring over this. What are we expecting?
Well, we have the 3 names, as you mentioned. We have front runners of a list of 20 that he actually released. And he did actually tell a group of supporters in North Carolina this weekend that he plans to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat with a woman. So we picked out 3 women from that list who seem to be front runners. The first one being Amy Coney Barrett. Now, she's 48 years old, from New Orleans, Louisiana, the only female judge on the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. She was appointed to the 7th Circuit by President Trump in 2017. She's a former clerk of the Supreme Court to Justice Antonin Scalia. She's a graduate and former professor of Notre Dame's School of Law. Now, one thing I want to point out about her is there are those who seem to feel that if she's actually appointed to the court, Roe v. Wade, that long-standing landmark decision that gives women the right to choose, could come under attack. I want you to listen to this statement by Jeffrey Toobin. Now, he's a legal scholar, Supreme Court follower, and he had this to say about her possible appointment.
If you look at her academic work before she was appointed to the bench, I mean, there is virtually no doubt that she would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade. She does not believe in the constitutional basis for Roe, and that's what really brought her to prominence in Republican politics.
So as you can see, very, very important decisions here. Another name that's come up a lot is Barbara Lagoa. Now, she's Hispanic. She's 52 years old, from Miami, Florida. She's a judge on the 11th Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals. She was appointed to the 11th Circuit by President Trump in 2019. She's the first Hispanic woman appointed as a justice of the Supreme Court of Florida, and she's a graduate of the Columbia Law School. And another name that has come up is Allison Jones Rushing. She's 38 years old, from Hendersonville, North Carolina. She's a judge on the 4th Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals. She was appointed to the 4th Circuit by President Trump in 2018. She's a former clerk for then Judge Neil Gorsuch for the 10th Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals, a graduate of the Duke University School of Law. Now, one of the things you should notice about this, Ted, is that all these women are very young, and if appointed, this is, of course, a lifetime appointment. They could be on the court for a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, one of them is very young at 38. Julie Grant, no matter what, if one of these 3 or even another is on this court, gets confirmed, the court itself, the balance is going to change dramatically.
Correct, Ted. Correct. That's why so many eyes are on this, and I think it's important to remember. And yes, I mean we know 5 conservatives on the court. There were 4 justices said to be primarily liberal, and now with the passing of Justice Ginsburg, there is a concern there. But with Chief Justice John Roberts, I mean we never quite know. He's kind of down the middle, so to speak. So all that being said, I think it's important for us to take a step back and think about how the Supreme Court was never intended to be a political body, right? And we know that presidents, from Article 2, Section 2 of our Constitution, they have the power to nominate the Supreme Court justices, and of course, with the advice and consent of the Senate, then they can either be confirmed or rejected. So that system of checks and balances is in play, and we see the political struggles sometimes. And I think with what we're seeing now and how there's such a great concern about the balance tipping, and then of course a deadlock court isn't any good either, because then we have an issue of productivity there. We want cases to be decided. I think what really is resonating with me is the fact that it makes so much sense that we have these appointments for life. So we don't have this. So we don't have the concern of worrying about what each president, may do. Justices campaigning, running on certain platforms because of issues that may crop up. We heard, Michael mention, Jeffrey Toobin talking about Roe v. Wade. And so, yes, it makes perfect sense that we want the court to make decisions based on the law, not on politics. This is a nonpartisan group, and they take an oath, actually 2 oaths. They take the judicial oath and the constitutional oath to uphold the laws of our great nation. So I think with any of these potential nominees, Ted, our country would be in great, great hands.
Actually, to Julie's point, it's not as though, yes, presidents nominate judges and they get confirmed, but because they are a different class of human being, in my opinion, it's not like Capitol Hill, where you've got an army of liberals and Republicans, and they just clash at every moment. You look at the decisions that the high court makes, and it does not come down every single time with the conservative side and the liberal side. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, but it's pretty close. I mean, honestly, it's been a one-man court for as long as I've been in this country, which is about 25 years, it has seemed. Not with every decision, but with many of the decisions. And what I am so fascinated by is the ages of these appointees, because to me, there can be nothing more obvious than choosing someone at age 40-something to sit in judgment of this country. I'm sorry. I don't think that unless you are so spectacular a human being, I don't think you have the foundation yet in your 40s to weigh the most weighty issues of our generations. And to me, it just seems blatantly obvious that you're just looking for 50 years. You're just making sure that you get someone on your side for 50 years. And I find that offensive. I mean, I personally would like to see age discrimination the other way. I'd like to see a qualification just like there is one for president, where you have to be at least in your mid-50s to be considered to be one of these jurists. Because there's a lot of life experience that goes into shaping and fomenting not only your political bent, but also your life experiences inform so much more. So many of your experiences inform how you judge, how you determine, how you see things, not to mention the study of con law. And you better have been doing it for a long, long time. So I just, again, personally think it's awfully coinky-dinky that loads of these folks have been appointed in their 40s.
Michael Ayala, your thoughts on Ashley's point there that, maybe a lifetime appointment is the way to go, but you should have a life of experience before you're considered.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you can look at it and say, yes, that would be a great idea. But when you talk about what the job of the justices are, which is to apply the law, while personal experience should come into it, I think to some degree, a lot of this is looking at the law the way it was put down by our founders, and then finding how they meant to apply it to situations as they come up within the court. I think if you have a great legal mind and have proven yourself, no matter what your age, now again, there are limits to that. Certainly you want to be an adult, you want to be of a certain age. But if you are able to apply the law the way it was meant to be applied, or the way you can at least support with various cases and various case law, how it should be applied in different cases, I think that should be enough. And oftentimes in these cases, they're looking for someone who's called a strict constructionist, someone who's looking at the law the way our founders intended it. And if they can find that in someone who's 42, 38, which does feel a little bit young, I'll be honest, if they can find it in that age group, then so be it.
Julie Grant, your thoughts? A 38-year-old too young to be on the court?
You know what? I'm going to say no, Ted, only because you just never know someone's individual capacity and how they're able to work to the top of their intelligence. Everyone is an individual. For some of us, it takes a lot longer for us to mature and get to the point where we could have such a job. But I don't want to count anybody out. I know they say with age equals wisdom, and I think that is generally true. But I think these women, my gosh, I mean, the three that Michael mentioned for us tonight, their qualifications are all so incredibly impressive. And what I just really want to see more than anything, Ted, is a full court. I want to see someone nominated and confirmed so that the court can continue in its mission in deciding cases. And so we don't have a deadlocked court. A non-productive court won't do anyone any good. And I certainly don't want to see what happened with Judge Merrick Garland. With Justice Antonin Scalia's passing, it was such a shame that there was so much politicking going on with the Senate saying, well, we're not of the same party as President Obama, so we're not going to confirm anyone. And it just seemed like, what good does that do for the American people? It just doesn't. And so I hope the same thing doesn't happen this time when President Trump puts forth a nominee for this Senate to consider.
Last word, Ashley. Both of Michael and Julie seem to think that the age thing on the bottom line isn't as big a concern. Is it?
Yeah,
is
no,
it
no.
that
Hey,
you...
let me be really clear here.
Yeah.
I think there are some exceptional 27-year-olds. I've met them. I remember Jeff Zucker at 27 years old was running the Today Show and NBC Nightly News, and it's like crazy. That guy's success was like, but he deserved it. He's that good. They're one in a million. That's my point. They're one in a million. And I also think applying the law is different than just reading the law. So that's where my insistence of foundational knowledge and life experience, I think, informs how you apply the law too. So, and look, I'm speaking out of turn here because I'm not a lawyer and you guys are, and you know a hell of a lot more than I do about this. But I do know the temperament that I have seen over the 33 years of doing this job. And I do see an immaturity oftentimes in younger judges. That is not to say that any of those panelists you're seeing on your screen right now exhibit any of that. I'm just seeing a pattern here, folks. And I don't see them all as Jeff Zuckers. Like I'm seeing like Gorsuch was 49, Clarence Thomas was 43, John Roberts was, I think, 49 or 50. And now we're looking at a 38-year-old. And I just think, that's an awful lot of extraordinary people at that age. I'm starting to smell a rat. I think that's my point. My point is that I suspect politics before I suspect exceptionalism when it comes to these young ages.
All right. We unfortunately, we have to take a break. We can't debate the Jeff Zucker thing, but I would love to. Let's take a break. Coming up, the murder of an exotic snake breeder ends up with his wife facing murder charges. She was in court asking for bail. We'll have that coming up next.